Today is happening again. Twin Peaks Club Volume 4. We're talking episodes 12 through 16, aka Season 2, episodes 5 through 9, aka until the kind of initial plot of the show is resolved and right before the quality takes a precipitous drop. I am your wicked game master, Lloyd Crews, the Joey Chestnut of Talking About Movies. Edwin Gomez is still being held hostage at One-Eyed Jack's for somehow. After, hopefully, maybe we'll resolve that today. One can only hope. But I am joined by...
Hey guys, it's Brian. And I heard Edwin just loves the heroin too much. They wanted to kick him out, and they're like, can you just please leave? And he's just loving it. He's loving it.
He's being annoying about it. And...
hey everyone, Alex here.
Yeah, and thanks for joining, Alex. I really wanted to have you on one of these first for the golden era of Twin Peaks, I would say, in my opinion.
Of course, I quite appreciate that.
And I'm excited to talk about these episodes. Thank you to Marina Sakamoto, and I keep saying Marina Sakamoto and her band Shenkin for the use of their song Curse off the EP She Nods for our opening. And it's been 191 days since the AMPTP, the strike. I'm all goofed up. It's too early. We're doing this at 4 a.m.
It feels like it.
And no, it's been 191 days since the strike ended and the AMPTP still sucks. How are you guys?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk some peaks.
Love the peaks.
Let me change my background. I don't have funny backgrounds for these episodes, Alex, because I ran out of funny backgrounds for Twin Peaks like on the first episode we did, and so I just have screenshots from each episode so I can kind of remember. Nice.
All I would think of to do is maybe like the Homer watching Twin Peaks when he goes, I have no idea what's going on.
There was like a couple of Simpsons ones, and there was the meme of James with the giant forehead. And that was kind of, and I was like, I don't know. I have this episode broken down into 4 sections. Around Town, The Judge, Operation Rescue Audrey, and Harold Smith. Around Town are a bunch of little single beats. Bobby and Shelley meet with the guy installing the disability stuff. We get that great scene where I always forget this, and then I feel like it pings in my brain every time I watch it, where he's like messing with it. He's like, sometimes you got to hit it like a woman.
It was one of those that when I heard that line again last night, I was like, wow, he really just said that. That's wild.
It was a different time, and he's from a different time. Sure. He was from a different time then.
Yeah.
And it was a different time.
It felt out of the 50s for sure. Like it was the guy who's got the weird vacuum cleaner salesman vibe going on.
Yeah. We get a little scene with Nadine coming home where she doesn't understand anything. That's like there's like a scene like that in every episode that we're covering.
Love it.
Tojimura, who I have written from here on out as TJ in my notes. Tim Sabin with a deal. Gives him like a check. And the other little storyline is what's going on behind me. Is
Andy.
Lucy and Andy. Lucy is leaving for a few days. Andy has to take over, and he's struggling with sticky notes. And we find out that he's not. He has sperm. He has the great "I'm a whole damn town" line.
He's a whole damn town. Yeah, he's just a salmon rush happening.
And you get that moment with Harry, which you can see kind of hear him walking out. And he like walks in, and Andy says it to him. He's like, "Cool."
Yeah, I think Harry at this point, with all the shit he's seen, he's just like, that's fine, Andy. Good.
But then Andy calls that number, and Lucy is at an abortion clinic.
She is.
Dun dun dun. Who knows? Well, those are all the little mini storylines this episode that there's like one or two scenes of. There's a decent amount of this episode that's up at the Roadhouse with the judge character, whose last name is it Sherman? What's the judge's name?
Judge Sternwood.
Sternwood. Okay.
Yeah. He's great. By the way, I just love his presence, and I do love that Court is in the Roadhouse. Like, there's just something about that is so amazing. And the way the aisle is like super cleaned up, and there's just the sawdust all around every other bit of it. It's great. It's great. And the fact they had 2 court cases in that scene, it's great. The Law and Order episode of Twin Peaks.
Yeah. I almost wish he's like another one of these little characters that I wish I could have used more of like later this season, you know?
I agree.
Yeah. I love all the characters that like come from like outside Twin Peaks, and then you see them like kind of being non-Twin Peaks residents in the town. Yeah. Like what's his face? Miguel Ferrer, Albert.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. But I like that, you know, I mean, there's 2 types of those characters. There's Albert. I mean, I guess maybe there's a third type. I feel like they're always either like Albert, where they clash at first, but then kind of warm up. Or like,
you definitely notice that, yeah. And especially in this batch of episodes, you see like Albert almost like becoming more of the team.
Yeah, Albert's just one of the dudes now in these episodes when he shows up. Like him and Harry are just like bros at this point. Like they've let it all past. But then there's like characters like Sternwood who come in and feel like, even though he's not from there, that he could be in a way, like even though he is kind of different. Like, or like Cooper in a lot of ways is like that, where he never really clashes with the town in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, is why I like them coming in from out of town so much, is because they all assimilate so well into Twin Peaks. Like, it's just like an all like encompassing like warm hug of a town that also is a nightmare.
Yeah,
right. The judge definitely gives me like Robert Forster energy. Like I felt like that was really, for the return especially, that was great to have that feeling of it. I don't know. Like I would have liked, because that's a judge I would have wanted to see way more of him for sure too. But it felt like that kind of compensated for that.
Yeah, and it's weird too, because I feel like he's actually in the previous episode more, the one from that we covered last time.
Yeah, because that's where you hear more about like the his assistant or the whole thing, which she plays such an interesting role, because I don't know what she actually is. I mean, this one, she's, you know, a bartender.
Yeah,
it's just an interesting. It's like sort of she just jumps into whatever he needs, and I don't know. Judge, pretty much. It's exactly what it is.
We get a couple of small beats with the judge at the Roadhouse, or with those characters. Andy is good at sketching, but he's still stupid because of his perspective. Leland is, in my opinion, kind of unrealistically given bail. I feel like I don't know. There's something, I'll say that, like, that's maybe one of the more, I think there's like 2 moments in these episodes when it comes to like some of the main storyline stuff that I think are like slightly unrealistic, and I think that's one of them. I don't think you would give Leland bail, probably, because it just seems so egregious, you know? Like it wasn't like him and Jacques got in a fight and he killed him or something, you know?
Yeah.
But
there's also the possibility that he's a flight risk.
Yeah, exactly. Especially now that, you know, his daughter is dead. And
right.
We find out that no spoilers, even though we will be getting to that this episode, we can finally Leo's coming home, and we get confirmation Coop has been here for 12 days. I think usually like each episode is about like a day in the town.
That's what it's felt like,
more or
for
less. Over with Operation Rescue Audrey. This is what starts the episode. Coop wakes up with a cowlick and finds Audrey's card while meditating on his head. He decides to devise his own plot to rescue Audrey instead of going along with all the blackmail shit. Blackie and Renault are gonna OD Audrey, and Renault and Nancy are gonna kill Blackie. They finally go to rescue Audrey. This was a big thing we were talking about last episode of this, where it was like, it's funny how long it feels like it takes a while for them to rescue Audrey in the context. When I'm like rewatching it, it's like 5 episodes where she's just kind of laying around.
Absolutely. That's all she does.
But
just praise to Cooper.
But I mean, it is what it is. But it is nice that they finally go, and that's a fun sequence with Coop and Truman.
I can't remember when it was, but I think that if I had to guess, it might be because they had to rewrite the like sort of Audrey storyline, because initially they wanted it to be like a sort of romantic storyline between her and Coop. Okay. And Kyle MacLachlan objected to that. He's like, Coop would never, you know, Coop is a stand-up guy. He would never like creep around on Audrey. So they, you know, ended up kind of taking it in a different direction. Maybe that's just all they came up with in like the time, is that she's just laying around.
I heard that was more in the first season, whenever she shows up to his room, like under his covers. And I also heard that part of that was motivated also by the fact that MacLachlan was dating Laura Flynn Boyle when they were filming this, and Laura Flynn Boyle and Sherilyn Fenn did not get along.
No, they did not.
And so
I forgot sort of when that happened in the show.
But but you know, the payoff is good. I like that weird. There's like the future. They come in through the like the construction area where it's like future Tibetan baths or something. Renault kills Blackie, and then Coop and Harry are almost caught, but Hawk saves them.
I love that rewatching it was so good with seeing the way Hawk's like in when they're at the police station, and he's just like, I know you guys are up to something, but it's like you can see it on the face. Like all of a sudden they're becoming super like, no, this is not for you. Like, I love that setup of.
I wonder why they don't involve Hawk. I guess because narratively you need that beat at the end.
That's exactly what it is.
It's a good beat.
Because it makes no sense. Hawk is the guy you want on that mission.
And like Hawk knows that they're doing this shit. You know what I mean? Like they went up there with like fucking Ed last season.
Exactly.
And then the other storyline this episode, Harold Smith. Donna agrees to give her life to Harold's living novel if she can read Laura's diary. He agrees, but he'll read the diary to her. We get some good. These are some of my favorite Donna scenes, I think, maybe in like the whole show. I gotta be honest, especially as I get older. Like, I really like the scene of her telling that story about her and Laura and those older men. Is a really good scene, and her little exchange about like there are things you can't get in books, there are things you can't get anywhere. There's a good exchange. Let's see. And Donna and Maddie plot to steal Laura's secret diary, but Harold catches them and he scars himself with a gardening tool, which is fucked up, but it's always, I've always noticed that it's a pretty bad effect. You can tell, you can see before he scratches, you can see like the blood dripping off, like clearly the paint, and he bumps it at like this part of his head, and you can see like a little red dot appear. But you know, it's still a great scene.
He's just so unhinged. I think he's the one who created emo in general.
Yeah, he's such a specific type of like
very like the melodrama is just so all the time of everything.
Yeah, it's just like him.
He's like a cute depressive.
He's like a grown-up version of like a little Victorian child or something. It's hard to.
His mother told him the world will get you every day.
Yeah, he's Bubble Boy. But yeah, that's episode 12. Let me change my background. Episode 13, we get the first on-screen appearance of this gentleman here.
The great. I'm so happy every time he's on screen, obviously. Great Gordon Cole.
Great Gordon Cole, which we'll get to. This episode I have divided up into the teens around town, Gordon Cole up at the Great Northern, and Mike. So the teens, James saves Maddie and Donna from the cliffhanger from the previous episode. This was kind of set up. Donna tells Harry about the diary, and Maddie and James have like a talk about, you know, Maddie kind of becoming Laura and the fact that she's returning home. Around town, we get a couple little moments here and there. Audrey is brought to the bookhouse to recover. Leo comes home, but the check is low. They have a party for Leo with kazoos. And then Shelley gets rightfully freaked out about smooching in front of Leo because that would be a weird thing to do.
Oh yeah. But I love how it goes from like they're just like crazy kids being like, let's see what we can get away with, to just pure fear on Shelley's face especially.
And you know that dude, I can't remember his name, but the guy who plays Leo is like doing an amazing job of being scary when he's just sitting there doing nothing.
Absolutely, the kazoo is like the scariest sound ever.
There is like a part of me that like feels bad for him in a way. I mean, I will say Leo is one of the few like unrepentant villains in the show, because most other villains in the show like get some sort of like even like Leland technically as a character separate from Bob obviously is the most unrepentant, but Leland gets redemption, and I think I might have just spoiled the next episode, but whatever.
It's hard because I realize that it isn't really one episode that spoils things. Like it is just sort of a lead up of like, if you're paying attention, you know what's going on. But with these episodes,
they do start planting some stuff here. But I do feel there is a part of me that's like, Leo doesn't deserve this. Like they shouldn't have done this. Like
then you just gotta go back to him like beating the shit out of Shelley with like a bag of quarters or whatever.
He deserves.
Like, you know what? Fuck this guy.
He deserves to be. They don't deserve it either. At the same time, you know what I mean? Like Bobby, what a fucking harebrained scheme. You know what I mean?
He's just a dummy. He's a dummy, and we love him for it.
Yeah.
And then we get a little Josie stuff. Josie's cousin / assistant finishes fucking her, and he's forcing her to Hong Kong on behalf of Aaron Eckhart, or Thomas Eckhart, whatever that character's name is. She ends up getting the TJ's check that TJ had given Ben, and she leaves, never to be seen again. Hopefully she doesn't come back and get, I don't know, stuck in a piece of wood or something. I mean, that would be really that'd be really fucked up and shitty if that happened. And then Gordon Cole, this man right here, he's got so many good lines, really weird stuff.
So many.
Agent Dale Cooper, or my favorite this
Chihuahua,
episode. You remind me today of a small Mexican Chihuahua. And
it's the cadence of his voice that just does it. It's so good.
I love that everyone's Lynch impression is essentially just Gordon Cole's voice.
Yes,
absolutely.
Well, in a lot of ways, Gordon Cole is just like Lynch. It is just him yelling.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
but it's so good because I mean we've all seen plenty of filmmakers who jump into roles here and there, but his is just like, no, I believe this character. I'm not like, this isn't just some like fantasy of like I want to be an actor. Like he's doing it, and it's great. It's great to see him every time. Like I think he understood how to put himself in a show too, you know, and not just be like, I'm a main guy.
Yeah. At least not until the return, where I think it kind of earns it, because he has to have like he has to be like top 3 screen times in the return. You know, like
I mean the one sequence that is in my head, without spoiling or anything, but him and Laura Dern, it's like that hallway sequence where he's walking down and all that stuff. That to me is like the best thing. That track that can't wait to get to it again. That's all I'm gonna say. I've been saying that every one of these podcasts. I just can't wait to get back to the return. It's so good.
I really want Alex on, because I know Alex is one of the people who loves Twin Peaks but doesn't like the return.
I was actually just going to ask that. Yes, okay, interesting.
But that's a conversation for...
That's a whole other,
it's a whole other bag of worms.
I am curious about for sure once we get to that.
And then there's the great moment where Gordon tries to like warn Coop about his past, and Harry just like, we can hear you out here. And Wyndham Earl begins his very long chess game. That
very, very long,
takes weeks to play. Because I think there's a time jump, isn't there? Like in the next episode, like episode like 17 or 18, there's like
so. I think it's around there.
There's like a week-long time jump. And up at the Great Northern, Leland comes back to Ben and is back on his game, seemingly, though a little distracted by White Fox in Leland's in Ben's office. Leland sings, which kind of freaks Ben out in the lobby. We get that funny Pete moment where TJ's at the bar and then Pete just whirls around. It's like, the king and I. And TJ meets Pete for the first time, which will be relevant if people haven't guessed. I mean, to be fair, TJ doesn't look like the actor.
No, they did a good job with it, and they're good at what they do.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the racist implications of it,
right,
be kind of work well. And I will say, in context, like, there are like way more racist versions of this thing that have been done over the years. Like,
I think, and especially with the times, like, I mean, it wasn't one of those that was being called out.
Yeah, there's something.
It wasn't
innocent.
Like in a way of making fun of it. You know, it was weird.
No.
Yeah.
There's never a point where like the joke. There's like it's like a joke.
Where you let go and you switch into that mode of I'm doing this accent or I'm doing this thing. You know, it just
it's
was
always
sort
just
of an organic, like,
it's like a
this
disguise.
Is a
Yeah. And then we get some Mike stuff towards the end. The one-armed man goes through withdrawal and becomes his spirit self. He becomes Mike, which I always write. When I write Mike and Bob, I always write them in all caps, because I think they would do that a lot. We get some Bob lore. Bob and Mike were familiars. Bob's a monster. Parasite attached to someone. They used to, quote-unquote, have fun together before Mike turned to God and cut off his arm. Now he hunts Bob. And we get a cliffhanger that Bob is up at the Great Northern. And then we move on to the big one. one of the big ones for sure. With this.
Oh, the giant. Yeah,
The giant,
yeah,
yep.
yeah. Yeah, these episodes, these few especially, are just so good. Which so like I love the lore shit. Like I mean, I just want, and honestly, I think that's why I do love Return so much. It does so much weird shit. But like, yeah, this is my favorite part is when we start doing this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be, for me at least, like probably series favorite episode.
Yeah. It's really up there for me. I think the pilot might be my favorite, but I do think I like top 5 for sure is probably like, honestly, my top 5 favorite episodes are probably the pilot, episode 2, the one with the red room sequence, this episode, the last episode we're talking about today, and the finale of season 2. Those might be, as much as I love the return, maybe I would swap out the 2 episodes from now with episode 8, or part 8 of the return, which I love, but there's something extra special about these first 17 episodes of the show that for me. This episode I have kind of broken up by just like the flow of it, because it's a little more like segmented out kind of this episode. They kind of wait until the end to do all the stuff. Up at the Great Northern, Mike is seeing people but saying no to all of them, but he kind of freaks out, and Ben comes in to bust it all up. Harold has committed suicide and left suicide note, I am a lonely soul, in French. And at the Palmers, everyone is having a really nice morning, and Maddie wants to leave tomorrow. And those are the 3 opening scenes, I think, of the episode. Nadine and Ed show up to the RR. This is just like a one-off, and everyone has to play along, and she breaks the glass. We get
Shelly and Norma, like the look on their faces are just like, it's almost like Ed should have given a heads up, like you didn't tell anybody in town already, right? You know, like there's only so many of us here, but like Nadine's crazy, just letting you guys know.
Yeah. There's not, I would say, like, I know it's a small town, but there's gotta be another restaurant like that Ed could have taken Nadine to. You know what I mean? Like, or just take them, just take her to the like the Great Northern lobby, honestly, like genuinely, like you're an adult, you know, and you can you can frame it to like little Nadine as like, oh, well, I'm treating you fancy, and she will probably like that, you know.
That's true, yeah.
And
it doesn't take much to get her brain. I mean, even like, where's mom and dad? Oh, yeah, they're just away.
Yeah,
I know she's supposed to be. This is that thing that, like, I've heard people talk about this, but you get it with like I remember with and I actually like, I think the little Nadine storyline is pretty funny, but you get it with like I remember Jack, that Robin Williams movie, where whenever an adult has to play a kid, they always play them way too young. And so like there's something about the way Nadine is playing stuff here where she comes off less like a 16, 17-year-old and more like a 12-year-old.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I feel like even with like, didn't Norma and Ed, like, weren't they like in high school, weren't they together at first? So like how like Nadine's not like recognizing Norma or something, or maybe just ignoring her. It's interesting.
Yeah, but hey, what are you gonna do? She hasn't.
You know, that's the stuff that we talk about in here. But obviously, it's, as you're watching it, it's not a big plot point.
No, yeah, it happens so fast, and Nadine hasn't met little Nadine, I should say, hasn't met her true love yet. That comes after these episodes.
It does indeed.
We get a couple of scenes with the Johnson family. Bobby's kind of wimping out. Him and Shelly are fighting about money, and Leo comes to life when they're talking about where he hid his money. That's where we get the new shoes thing. I like the scene where Shelly is emotional about quitting, but Norma's really nice. It's a very sweet scene.
It's those heartfelt moments in this series altogether that just happen sporadically that are just so authentic.
Yeah. And then Bobby and Mike find a tape in the in Leo's shoes. The new shoe clue leads to evidence that gets brought up more in the next episode. We get some stuff with Ben Horn. Audrey confronts him about One-Eyed Jacks. He didn't recruit Laura, but he did sleep with her. And he has a picture of her on his desk, which I think that's another thing that pings in my brain every time I'm watching, where like, this is really suspicious, Ben.
Yeah,
like if you didn't want them to think that you murdered her, maybe you shouldn't have a picture of your lawyer's daughter. Like, I mean, I guess Ben is supposed to be like a really good family friend, but
I think he just relishes playing the ultimate scumbag. Like, he's just like, you know what?
Yeah.
No, I'm actually this guy, but I'm gonna still like put it out there like I'm not.
And Coop looks through Laura's diary, finds some mentions of Bob and that he's a friend of her father, and Audrey tells Coop what she knows. And Ben is making a deal with TJ when the police show to arrest him, and he freaks out.
So doesn't TJ.
Yeah.
You know, in their own way.
Yeah. And then the last third of this episode happens, and it's pretty much like two things intercut, two scenes intercut. There's a couple little beats here. The one big beat, the only one that I singled out is we do during this last third finally get a reveal that Tajimura is Catherine Martell in Yellowface.
And that was great with Pete though. Like
Yes.
Pete just freaking out, like how he's just like, wait a minute, you wait a minute here, sir.
Yeah.
So it's so great.
I'll
say, I think I say it every single one at a time, but Jack Nance he'll always be the greatest ever. Just saying.
And then we get the last third. I do agree. This last third of this episode is pretty incredible. Is like top, just like it. I think if we're talking about like individual sequences, it's like this and the last 20 minutes of the finale of this season, and you know, like the radio station stuff at the end of part 8. Like, this whole sequence is so good, but it's really intense and upsetting.
You know what the biggest thing in the builder with this, because I always watch stuff like this, especially if I really appreciate it in headphones. The way that like the record at the end, the way that's skipping, it's so rhythmic that it like I was almost like moving to the sequence as if it was some like rhythmic activity, and what it did to just add to that tension is just insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so well done. And that's the thing with all Lynch's sound design and stuff, like the minimalist approach, but just how effective it is just it's wild.
Yeah. I think that's why this sequence works so well, is because of like it has that undercurrent that ties it all together of like the soundtrack. Because there's that record skipping. There's also the awesome Julie Crews music.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's notable that he would end up on the return. He also does all the sound design on that.
Yeah.
So it's clearly something that he's concerned with. Almost sometimes it feels like as much as the visuals, especially compared to a lot of like big directors, you know.
I mean, definitely. I mean, he always took interest. I mean, even Eraserhead, but I mean, he worked on it where they would take a water bottle and put the mic in it, and then fill a bathtub up with water, and then just drag the bottle around it and just get these sounds. Like, he was always so fixated on trying to create these like really interesting landscapes that are very, very, you know, evident in what he does with everything.
But in this last third, we cut back and forth between the Palmer house and Coop and Harry. Sarah's crawling down the stairs. The log lady shows up to the sheriff's department to tell Coop and Truman they need to go to the Roadhouse. Sarah sees the white horse. At the Roadhouse, Julie Crews is playing. Bobby, Donna, James are there. And then the giant appears on stage, which is what's going on behind me. He says, "It is happening again." And we get the big reveal that Bob is possessing Leland, and that Leland is the murderer. which is you know,
the bars, the Roadhouse sequence almost felt like that first episode when we find out Laura, how everybody like sort of knew without knowing yet, and they were getting emotional and crying. Like you could almost feel that energy around the bar as soon as, you know, Maddie is getting murdered at that moment.
Well, that's the whole thing,
absolutely.
is that we get the reveal of who Bob is through Maddie getting murdered by Leland in a really upsetting scene where he's toying with her and kills her.
That was one of those where I'm like, how was this on network TV at the time?
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely, I mean, it would never fly for network TV these days, ever.
Yeah, it's too intense. It's like it's not gory, really.
No, it's just brutal.
It's just
brutal.
really
it's
upsetting.
Just like what's happening, the context.
And just how aggressive it is. Yeah, I mean, she's just like, oof.
But
that's, you know, Cheryl Lee and Marie Weiss.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Incredible performers. So, I mean, that's speaking a little ahead, and at least on something that you also do like, Alex, I'm so glad that Fire Walk With Me exists, if just for being a showcase for those two.
100%. Fire Walk With Me is amazing.
And by the way, just since we actually just said that real quick, Scott actually just messaged a little while ago, because Fire Walk With Me is going to be playing at the Egyptian in a couple weeks, and Ray Weiss is doing a Q&A after, and just found out that the great Vera Drew is going to be the moderator. So I'm going to be going to that one for sure. You guys all should go too.
I think I'll be out of town, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you are too. Yeah, it's like during Bleak Week.
Okay, that would have been great. But
I think Fire Walk With Me is amazing on its own, but I think that part of the value of it is that it kind of strengthens seasons 1 and 2. I mean, season 2 especially. Like you can go watch Fire Walk With Me and then go back and watch season 2 and see it, you know, say it's your first time. See it in a different way than you had the first time you watched it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Even if you already like guessed that, you know, Leland was the killer, it provides important like context to his character and to the Bob character and to the Laura Palmer character.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. And just a great showcase for them where, like, because their performances are in a way kind of, you know, cut short considering like what happens to their characters, you know? So even on like the return where all these other characters get to kind of come back fully, obviously they kind of can't because of the things that happen to them. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just valuable on that level too. Hold on, let me take a little note here. Okay. Leland puts an O under the nail. Back at the Roadhouse, the giant disappears as Cooper grips where his ring was. The waiter is also there. We kind of start getting set up here, and this is something that's never like fully explained, but that, you know, these spirits have like human anchors. And
like the conduits,
and in certain cases the spirit self and the human self look the same, like in the case of Mike and Philip Gerard, but it seems like oftentimes the spirit being and the vessel are different, and it seems pretty clear the implication that the
waiter and
the elderly room service waiter is the vessel for the giant.
Absolutely.
That's always what I've gotten from.
Which also for sure,
which also ties into the whole doppelganger themes that the show explores.
And then what Brian was saying about how everyone kind of feels emotional, like Bobby and Donna especially seem to almost like feel the psychic like repercussions of the things that are happening. And also justice for Maddie. Maddie also dies, and nobody talks about her as much. And she's, you know, she chopped liver.
She's no Laura.
Is Coop should go back in time and save her too.
Like, she's fine, you know. She did her time. It's good.
Yeah. But
she just she basically her role was just to trigger everybody, essentially.
Yeah.
I do love that, like, they just liked her so much that they wrote her this role.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'm glad that she does end up getting to come back through either flashbacks or whatever the fuck is going on.
I mean, for somebody who dies in the first episode, I mean that the character development is pretty wild, you know, for somebody, you know.
But then we move to episode 15. We'll get to this moment behind me. This might be my favorite moment from this episode, honestly. The little Horn brothers.
Oh right, yeah, dude. Honestly, the two of them together, the way they reminisce at the weirdest moments ever is fascinating. The two of them in general are just fascinating.
Yeah.
We get Piper Laurie back in the opening. I have this episode broken down into 4 sections: around town, Ben, Leland, and ending. Around town, we get introduced to Lucy's annoying sister Gwen. We get a great Hawk line where Gwen's like, you must hate white people, and he's like, well, some of my best friends are white people.
It was funny in the way that it sort of almost it felt out of time, because it's something more people would say later on in life, and it just was really funny the way it hit.
Yeah.
Hawk is great. God, is he great.
And then Andy thinks Gwen's baby is his and faints, and Andy
doesn't understand anything. Anything.
And it's so funny too, because you can almost, there's like a part of like Lucy, like in that shot where he's like approaching and she's holding it, you can kind of tell that she almost wants him to think that it is hers in a way, you know.
Absolutely.
Even though obviously that wouldn't make any like fucking sense, you know what I mean? Like, what is it, the first Omen? But yeah,
Alex was trying to forget that out of his head. He's like, look, I had to spin that thing a lot of times.
Yeah, actually, I mean, we ran it for a week. I didn't really get time to like. Really
It was only week 1, right?
Yeah, because I was like doing other inspections and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Andy comes clean about his cum. Bobby listens to the tape he found, which seems to be of Leo and Ben's deal. Bobby is going to blackmail Ben. And then maybe one of the grossest scenes, I think, in the entire show, where Shelly is covered in gunk from Leo and Bobby licks it off in like a sexy way. But it always is like, I've always found this scene repulsive. Like, I think if, like, as hot as Madchen Amik is, I would be like, I need you to clean up. Like, this is really gross. Like, the implication seems to be that this was in Leo's mouth or something, maybe, or it's like baby food that was mushed up. Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking weird.
I think you describing it is making me more gross. Yeah, like, I mean, because I kind of passed over quickly enough, but now I'm thinking about it, and it is, like, get a wet nap.
Yeah, like, what is it? Like, why are you eating it off of her, Bobby? Like, it's not sexy. It's like it's not like she was making a cranberry pie in the kitchen or something and something happened.
Right,
like, that would, okay, you know what I mean? Like,
I like that you picked a cranberry pie, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
that's a good one. No, it's good, and I would never have thought to make cranberry pies by first.
But like, at best, that is food that Leo like knocked out of her hand and splattered on her.
Right.
At best. And it's like baby food or something, if that's the case. We get a great little scene of Harry and Pete spotting stock footage of a woodpecker. And we get some, I almost made this its own little section, because we get a couple of scenes with Norma and her mom, Vivian, who shows up to the diner with her new husband, Ernie, who's a real snappy dresser.
Absolutely.
The food critic is brought back up for the first time in 4 episodes. Gee, I wonder why. There's some Hank conflict. Vivian is very concerned with the food at the Great Northern. Gee, I wonder why. And Hank and Ernie know each other from jail, but Ernie is quote unquote trying to go straight, and Hank's clearly going to blackmail Ernie. But we don't return to this until after these episodes, because they rightfully, I think, decided that there were more pressing storylines to focus on. Like, for instance, Ben. We find out that Ben was with Catherine the night of Laura's murder, and we get, this great scene where Jerry and Ben, kind of the redemption. This is what I was meaning earlier about, like, because in some ways Ben and Jerry, especially in the first season and a half, are kind of, I mean, they're likable villains, but they are kind of villains. They're not really good guys at all. And but then, especially in the return, by the time you get through all that, like, they've been, like, essentially kind of redeemed. Like, you like them a lot. Like, they feel like people who have tried to turn into better people. And this is kind of, I think, the beginning of it. Is they share a story about when they were young and sharing bunk beds, and this, like, older neighbor girl, I think, came in and did, like, a dance on their rug with this flashlight. It's a good scene. And
both of the two pervy bros.
Yeah. They enjoy.
One day we're gonna run a place with women.
A brothel.
Brothel. That's what we'll do, bro.
Got a good Jerry line. As your attorney, your friend, and your brother, I strongly suggest you get yourself a better lawyer. A laughing Pete delivers a message.
The happiest Pete has ever been in this entire series is that sequence.
Kind of the most, like, menacing in a way. There's something
super.
Yeah.
He's being very Catherine-esque in the approach of it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the few times, because this is, like, especially when you think about Jack Nance in the context of some of other, like, of Lynch's other movies, like, Pete is, like, a much warmer character than, say, whatever Jack Nance's character in, like, Blue Velvet is, you know?
Just maniac man.
Yeah.
Love it.
But this is the closest he gets in vibe, I think, to his character in Blue Velvet. But and
he's definitely more the ho-hum pushover in the rest of it, for sure.
Yeah. He's delivering a message from Catherine. She's exploiting the fact that she has Ben's alibi. And Harry charges Ben with Laura's murder, but Coop doesn't believe it. The kind of big stuff, I would say, the biggest stuff this episode is obviously following Leland. And this is something we'll talk about at the end of next episode. But I'm always surprised when I rewatch. I think it's good because it makes these episodes stronger. But I'm always surprised that they didn't drag out Leland more. You know what I mean? Like, rewatching it, like, that feels like, I'm not saying they should have done it, like, the whole season. Like, that would have been awful. But I feel like you could have gotten at least another, like, 2, 3, 4 episodes. Maybe not that many, but where the audience knew, but they didn't know, and they were, like, piecing stuff together. I think it makes these episodes really strong, because you have, like, so much, like, good shit happening in them. But I'm just always curious that they didn't stretch out this storyline more. It seems like the obvious thing to do, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it could be just because they had all these things that they had pushed to the side for so long that they felt like, oh, maybe we have to get to all, which is probably why it feels like such an onslaught of subplots after this.
Yeah, definitely.
Subplot mania.
Yeah.
It becomes,
which,
like,
I don't hate all the subplots, by the way.
I don't either. I actually find there's really only one I don't find charming, and that's the James stuff.
The James stuff is so fucking stupid.
I mean, it's funny.
You know what? I'll go to bat for the James stuff.
Nice. Absolutely. Hell yeah.
When he has that whole, like, Sunset Boulevard, like, living in the garage. I like that.
We'll have to have you on.
I don't. Yeah. I was say I don't love the Nadine stuff that we have going on right now with the little Nadine.
Yeah.
When she thinks she's a high school. That's probably my, like, least favorite of, like, season 2.
Yeah.
I weirdly, the comedy ones I'm like more okay with. So like, because it's just like funny. You know, like it's like even when they're not actually funny, they're funny in like a bad way. Whereas like the James stuff is, I think, such a flat line for me. Like there's nothing really even like that funny about it, as opposed to like Civil War Ben is really shitty and stupid, but it's like so shitty and stupid that it becomes like funny in a way.
Yeah.
It's very canon to the show, but the Harold stuff is one that I just don't like the character. It's so just, but I understand the importance of it for narrative speaking, but it is just one of those as I'm watching it, I'm just like, I just don't like this guy.
Well, Harold is definitely Harold is a character that was introduced because the previous season's two big red herrings, which were Dr. Jacoby and Leo Johnson, had both been sort of deemed like, well, these aren't it. And so Harold is a character that is, I think, kind of clearly, I mean, I like what they do. I do kind of know what you mean. Like there's a vibe to him that's a little off.
The narrative, he's perfect with plot sense, but just as far as like the character, like what it is as a character, you know?
But he is clearly a character introduced because they need a new, like
a suspect.
Maybe,
they need a new like major suspect character. He kind of fills, I think, the Jacoby role in certain ways. In the first part of the season,
he completely like a serial killer. Like if I was Donna, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm not going to that house.
In that he's more connected to the Donna part of the story.
Right.
And B, he has the more like psychosexual connection with Laura, as opposed to, which is what Jacoby had, as opposed to Leo. And then this season where it's kind of been a little bit more, which, you know, they kind of have in the first season, but he gets emphasized a lot more, obviously, in these episodes, especially. Ben, like Leo, has the more like direct sexual relationship.
Right. Harold just has a secret dungeon. That's really Harold's thing.
But the episode starts with Leland golfing in his living room. Though it's still Bob.
1,000 golf balls.
Bob is still in control. It seems to kind of be, the implication seems to be that like Bob is always essentially in control, and it's almost like he's like letting Leland kind of come up to the surface to be like normal in certain moments, but Bob is, as like the possessor, still like the dominant personality.
Right.
Donna and James come to say goodbye to Maddie, but Leland dropped her off already. Maddie's body is in the golf bag, which Leland puts in the trunk. Leland dances at the hotel, and Coop is suspicious for some reason. And this is my other, like, I know like so much of the show involves like Coop's intuition and stuff, but I will say that's a very like convenient that like Coop becomes suspicious of Leland, despite Leland essentially kind of doing the exact same shtick he's been doing.
Just crazy Leland.
Because we, the audience, now know that Leland.
I mean, especially you had Harry just go to bat with him a few episodes ago, where it's like, no, he's done so much for the town, and he's our guy, and then it's just. I always wondered that sequence, like if Harry hadn't have called out for Coop, if Leland would have just taken that golf club and smashed his head out. Like I'm wondering if that was maybe the intent. Obviously, it seemed to allude that, but
it does seem like that's gonna happen. Yeah, we get that scene where Leland gets pulled over. I don't know what that song is that Ray Wise is that. Chicks and ducks and geese better scurry.
Just a perfect Ray Wise song, basically, is what that is.
Yeah.
I love Ray Wise.
That whole driving sequence is great.
Yeah.
When he's like recklessly driving through the town, because we don't see a lot of parts of those towns except for that sequence.
Yeah. And he's that is a good scene, and it does, like I said, it almost feels like we could have gotten like 2 or 3 more episodes of like Leland in that mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
where
more unhinged and not just like, because it seems like everything else is like, oh, it's just the way he's dealing with trauma.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that's the way to introduce because he didn't want to give too much away too quick. But I agree, it would have been more fun to kind of see him in that Jekyll and Hyde role deeper.
Leland is he's pulled over. He gives them the stuff about Ben being upset about like a phone call and Laura's diary. And we get I always like this Coop line where Leland asks Coop about golf, and he's like, I enjoy its precision.
It feels like something Lynch himself would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's not even really like an answer.
Yeah.
Well, and even at the speed of it, it's just like he's in the middle of something. He's like, "Oh, you into golf?" And it's just like it was so quick the way he said it, but didn't have any thought behind it. There wasn't like a let me think about that for a second. Nope, precision.
And then Mike doesn't recognize Ben as Bob, but he does think Bob has been close. And at the end, we get a little scene where Coop is curling up with a milk and a pie.
As you do.
And Audrey comes to visit, talk about her father, and to essentially confirm that she didn't have sex up at the One-Eyed Jack's. And then Coop gets the call that they found Maddie's body. And that's how the episode ends. Okay. Let me switch for our last episode. Back at the Roadhouse. I'm right in the middle. My guys.
Yeah.
Looks like I'm kind of wait, no, this hand's over here. I'm holding them.
You are. Nice work. There's your thumbnail right there for the
for the episode.
I have like the B plots in this episode just sort of at the beginning, because this episode is really like pretty focused on even the two A plots, which is like the Donna James stuff and with Harold, and the more direct Ben stuff and the Leland stuff, all that stuff converges in this episode, and they are essentially the same plot line. But the few B plots we do get, we get another moment of Vivian being picky. Ben finds out TJ's true identity. And we get a couple of scenes with Lucy and Andy and Dick and the sprinklers that are getting worked on. Andy calls out Dick. Dick shows up, and there's a scene here that literally interrupts all the other stuff, and it's weird that it's like placed where it is. We'll get to that. I know that it's setting up him like smoking and the fire alarm. But it is kind of funny because in the middle of like the most dramatic reveals ever, we get like this comedy plot scene where Dick Tremaine is like, oh, like asking Andy for a light, and then he doesn't have it, and then he just immediately pulls out a light.
Well, I love how Andy, even when he realized what he was doing, he's like, oh no, I don't have a light. You know, he's so angry that he was maybe going to be nice to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that cigarette with the filter thing, I'm like, I don't even know what era that is even from. Like the length of it was just insane.
Yeah. And Lucy is going to do the really logical thing that I'm surprised nobody brought up before, which is just do a fucking blood test. So
yeah,
seems pretty straightforward.
Even though it is sort of funny the way that she's just like, look, it's either going to be one of you. You're going to have to. It's almost like you have to earn to be a father with me. You know,
oh, Lucy.
The way that it was like a challenge. Yeah, Lucy's insane, by the way.
Lucy gets so horny when people like show initiative around her. Like whenever Andy is like doing something, it like gets her going so much.
Oh yeah.
She is kind of manipulative. Like you watch us now and I'm like, she's kind of a nightmare person in a way. Like she's very charming and stuff, but I don't think I would want to be Andy actually. Because
you'd be fighting with her every other day.
Yeah. And you know, but she's a great character, obviously, and I love her. And I would love for her to be like my friend, you know?
Oh yeah.
Uh, and then the A plots converge. Albert is back. They know Maddie is another victim of the same killer. They know about the white fox fur, which connects back to Leland taking it from Ben's office. We get a scene with Donna and James at the diner with some weird lighting. They're like, I understand they're kind of doing it like it's like a thematic thing, I guess. But they're like, it's like one of the only times they do this in the series where they're using the outside, they're balancing the light to the light outside the diner as opposed to inside the diner. And so it makes it look like the diner is like really dark and like closed down or something. But they see Andy saying the French that Harold wrote, and she recognizes it from Harold's neighbor. Donna takes Coop to Harold's neighbor, but things are different. But they do get a page from Laura's diary that describes the Red Room dream from episode 2 as a sort of shared vision that Laura also had before her death. And Laura thought she had to die to get away from Bob. The waiter reappears with milk getting warmer now and directs Coop to Ben's office. Coop finds the fox, and we hear Leland's story about the call from Ben's office being true, which points obviously to Ben, but I think the implication being that Leland was just also there and that this was like a call that Leland was probably making. Donna gives Leland a tape they made. She's wearing Laura's glasses and it triggers him, along with finding out about the secret diary. He gets a call about Maddie and eats some gum. Bob is still in control. We get a nice Texas switch in that shot where Leland is straightening his tie, and then it pans over and it's Frank Silva in the mirror. And then Leland tries to dance with Donna and things get weird.
Very weird, very quickly.
And that, I think if you had drawn out the Leland storyline, that probably would have been a good thing to build to, is the idea of because that is a real thing with serial killers in real life, not to bring real life into Twin Peaks, but they usually, as they go, they it escalates and accelerates in a lot of ways. And so the idea that having it be this thing where clearly Donna, we can tell that probably Donna is going to be next. And they do that a little bit here. That seems to kind of be the implication that it might have happened again or something.
Well, it's always that happens. Yes, the doorbell rings, the phone rings, something like that. That sort of takes it out of that. But otherwise, absolutely.
And then Donna is emotional afterwards, and when James finds out about she finds out that Maddie's dead, James finds out, he flips off to greener pastures. He has a really, there's a line, I wish Bobby was here, because there's a line reading that he gives where he's like, this isn't good. That just reminds me of something that Bobby would a line reading he would give. And then we get the two big sequences this episode, up at the Roadhouse and up at the station. Up at the Roadhouse first, we got a whole gathering of guys, the fellas. Coop, Harry, Leland, Ben, Albert, Ed, Hawk, Bobby, and Leo. They clear the middle of the room. Coop is going to use magic with a K. Briggs shows up with the waiter.
Just at the right time.
Yep. The waiter has gum that Leland loved as a kid, which is, obviously the from the dream. The gum you like is going to come back in style. And Coop remembers. He remembers Laura, something that was set up in episode 3, I think, after his dream, that Laura whispered Coop who the killer was, and he just couldn't remember it. And he's finally able to, the Giant returns Coop's ring from the beginning of this season, and Coop sets a trap. He tells Ben to take Ben to the station. Leland's going to be his attorney, and as he leaves, he gives. And I use it as it'll probably be part of the cover of this episode. His, I think, the most iconic thumbs up in the show when he's leaving, and he gives the thumbs up, and the lightning strikes. At the station, Coop tells Harry it's a ruse to get Leland in the box, and it works. Leland, Bob freaks out, and they get a confession from Bob, but we find out that when Bob leaves Leland will remember everything. This, right in the middle of this, is where we get the fucking, hold on a second, that's weird. I see. Sorry, I'm like taking little notes here and there. This is where we get the scene with Lucy and the Dick smoking the cigarette. Ben's blood is wrong. Basically, Coop's like figured it out. Ben's blood is wrong. The little man dancing and the gray hair, those sort of connect to Leland. The name stuff with Leland, the neighbors, the Robertsons as a kid. And Harry wonders if Leland is maybe just crazy. They do kind of give you like an out. I'll be honest, I showed my mom up to here of the show, and then I stopped because I was just like, you know what? The rest is like, she would be okay with a lot of the rest of season, like most of the rest of season 2, but she would not like Fire Walk with Me or The Return.
Oh God.
And
I wonder how many people were like on board during the series, like loved everything about it, but then Fire Walk with Me came out and just got like, they were like, I can't. Because it is literally, I mean, it's obviously what Lynch would have wanted to do for the series, but it goes.
I think it got like mixed reaction.
It did.
Yeah.
I think you're right, because it did become like more of a cult classic, I think, over the time. But yeah, I think you're right, because it's definitely brutal.
Bob says he'll kill again. The sprinklers go off. Bob bashes Leland's head against the door, injuring him. Bob seemingly leaves Leland, and we get a really great scene. Ray Wise is so fucking good. Where Leland realizes what he's done. And this kind of gets into sort of the thematic stuff with Twin Peaks about like cycles of abuse. And because it's very much so it states outright that Bob, abused Leland when Leland was young, yeah. Which obviously works pretty cleanly as like a metaphor for in real life the way cycles of abuse work. And abuse is sort of this thing that's sort of passed down in a lot of ways. Coop helps Leland pass on, and Leland sees Laura in a very Ray Wise's not final scene on the show, on the original show, because I think he has like a little bit in the finale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But pretty much him and Cheryl Lee are gone from Twin Peaks until Fire Walk with Me. Afterwards, no one is sure what to make of it. They kind of leave off with like, where's Bob now? And this Raimi cam. There's like an Evil Dead shot through the woods with a really shitty digital owl.
Oh no, yeah, I know that last frame especially. You're just like, man, oh man. That's the one.
All the stuff, Yeah, all the stuff like that, though, I kind of feel like I can give a pass to in Twin Peaks. Whenever there's something like that,
absolutely.
like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
talked about the bad effect with the bloody face and everything, because the whole thing is like a sort of a play on like shitty soap operas. So even if it wasn't their intention, I can always just justify it in my head, like, oh yeah, it's just part of like the soap opera vibe of the show.
Oh, I find it immensely charming. You know what I mean? Like if I think there's something about the fact that some of those effects don't hold up that makes me like them more, honestly.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, because it's him just experience. I've seen, you guys have probably seen plenty of it with even some of these Twin Peaks things where you see him with just a tiny camera and he's on there, and I think I love that about Lynch, where he's like, I could get access to anything I want, but he loves to go with that minimal stuff, and it's great.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like shooting, Inland Empire on like mini TV.
Yeah,
It's insane. Yeah.
I mean, I love this run of episodes. I think it's great. I think it's
for sure.
Especially these last 3 we talked about. I will say this episode 16 reminds me a lot of the penultimate return episode. Especially like the scene at the Roadhouse reminds me a lot of the scene in the penultimate return episode up at the sheriff's station, where kind of all the characters gather and
they congregate, and because that's when we get Coop. Yeah.
But yeah, any other things you guys got to say about these episodes? I've rambled a lot there.
No, these are just great fun. I mean, it's like one of those where I admit I kind of forgot that we were doing this today in a little bit, and then like last night it was like, okay, I gotta get through 5 episodes. But you start one episode and next thing I know, I'm just blasting through them. I love every that's what Twin Peaks always does to me. It's like I'm not maybe thinking about it 24/7 because I've seen it so many times over the years, but as soon as I'm watching, I'm locked in. That's why that last 20 minutes of the last episode, I was like, what, you can't do this to me now.
Yeah.
World.
Yeah, these episodes have a lot of great sequences in them. There's nothing like as crazy as like Lynch ever gets in these episodes, but I think the reason that they're so easy to like just be involved in and be so engaged in is that like there's just this great blend of like the Lynch surreality, but also the like narrative, what's going on, we want to know. That's something that Twin Peaks does so well. It never leaves you like confused. It never leaves you like frustratingly confused the way that a lot of people get when they're like dealing with surrealism. And it's because of like the great kind of storytelling that's going on. And that's really like, this is the point of the show where it's like the strongest.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this first I kind of view Twin Peaks in like at this point I view it in like 4 sections. With this, what we've watched up till now kind of being the first section.
Yeah.
The second section being most of the rest of season 2. Section 3 being like the very end, Fire Walk with Me and the Missing Pieces, and 4 being the return. But yeah. But I think it's time.
Oh.
For Connor's Wicked Game, sponsored by Chris Isaac, one of David Lynch's best friends. Every week,
absolutely, yeah.
Like Jigsaw, I like to play a little game. Today, Twin Peaks title match. This is a game that last Twin Peaks episode we did roll call, which is something I'm going to bring back up again. This is one I'm going to bring back up again. I know Twin Peaks as the pilot, episodes 1 through 29. Fire Walk with Me, The Missing Pieces, The Return, parts 1 through 18, which is already kind of confusing because you could kind of argue that like The Return is just season 3 episodes 1 through 18.
Yeah,
and
right.
Technically, the pilot is season 1, episode 1, and season 1, episode 2 is called episode 1. However, the episodes were all given unofficial titles in Germany that have since become like semi-official, and this is what you guys are going to have to try to guess. I'm going to give you the official boring title of the app along with the description, which is pulled from a Laserdisc issue of the series, which I found on a website called LynchNet. You'll get a chance to guess the episode's more elaborate title, and then you'll get 3 options and another chance to guess. You get 3 points for guessing the right time, first time, 1 point for guessing it with the options. Does that all kind of make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
See it play out.
once we get into it, I feel like I'll understand it more.
Basically, you're trying to, because I think there are some people I know a friend specifically who would oftentimes refer to these episodes with these titles, these like specific titles. So we'll see. First off, we'll start with I'll start with Bri. You'll go first. We'll switch. You goes first each time. This is episode 14, aka season 2, episode 7. The identity of Laura Palmer's killer is finally revealed after Cooper and Truman's investigation receive some vital help from the one-armed man. Finances strain the relationship between Shelley and Bobby. Audrey Horne confronts Ben with what she knows about One-Eyed Jacks, and Leland Palmer tries to discourage Maddie from going home. That's an interesting way to put that. What's what's the name of this episode?
Is it a multiple choice, or I just have to guess?
You get a chance to guess, and you'll get more points, and then I'll give you a multiple choice. But if you don't have a guess...
Yeah, I don't have a guess. It's hard. I never really paid attention to the titles of these, let alone the German.
Alex?
I feel like I don't remember. It's something like just 2 words, though, I think.
All right, here are your options. Arbitrary Law, Lonely Souls, or The Curtain Reveals.
Okay, I know. Do we just say it?
Brian goes first.
It's Lonely Souls. Lonely Souls.
Yeah.
It is, in fact, Lonely Souls. Yeah, I have a friend who always would refer to that episode specifically as Lonely Souls. I keep wanting to call you Ben, Brian, because I've been saying Ben so many times.
I'm into it.
This episode.
I have 3 first names: Brian, Patrick, Robert. So it didn't even work for me. You just called me something.
All right.
By the way, speaking of this Lonely Souls, sorry to interrupt you. Speaking of this Lonely Souls episode, there's I think one time the show ran in the 90s on whatever cable TV, and Lynch did these intros, or the Log Lady did these intros for each episode that Lynch wrote, and the one that he did for that one is this short poem, but it's really, really awesome. If you've never read it, I encourage everyone to go look it up.
Cool.
Yeah, those intros are really good. Yeah, I like. I remember last time, I've been watching them just on my computer, but last time I watched them on my Blu-ray.
Yeah, the DVDs.
They had those where you could play the episodes with them.
Yeah,
which was cool.
Hell yeah.
Well, that was kind of the moment I had last night when my internet went out. I was just like, wait, I have the DVD. I just am like, do I want to be lazy enough? It was 20 minutes. So I'm like, take this set out for getting this going. Had it been a bunch of episodes, but it is the reminder that physical media is everything. So
yeah. Next up, episode 8, aka season 2, episode 1. The death of Laura Palmer sent shockwaves through the Pacific Northwest town of Twin Peaks. On the special 2-hour season premiere episode, the investigation into the mysterious killing continues. Sorrow settles over the community as several lives hang in the balance. Audrey Horne finds herself a terrified prisoner, and Donna Hayward receives a strange message. Any guesses on what the title could be before I give you the options?
Off the top of my head, I do not know.
Brian?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it's hearing things is probably the multiple choice would be the only way I'd probably be able to do a lot of these.
Alex, your options are May the Giant Be With You, Coma, and Realization Time.
This is, I'm sorry, it's the first episode of season 2?
Yeah.
You said? Okay. I'm going to go with Realization Time.
Ryan?
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
It is May the Giant Be With You was the name of that episode.
I guess there is that giant vision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking because Cooper writes that thing that's or he makes the recording. I know who killed Laura Palmer, but then he forgets in that episode.
Yeah. It's well, no, that was the first episode of season 2.
Yeah, is that not?
No, The Dream is episode 2 of season 1.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The first episode of season 2 is the first episode with the giant and with him laying on the ground being shot for
he's in his room and the giant comes in. Right, that's what I meant, sorry.
No worries. It's fine. Brian, episode 2, aka season 1, episode 3. FBI agent Dale Cooper demonstrates an unusual deductive technique for the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department. Benjamin Horne and his brother Jerry take a trip to One-Eyed Jack's. Donna Hayward and James Hurley pledge their love. Leo Johnson holds Bobby Briggs at gunpoint. Any guesses from either of you without the title?
No.
All right, here are your options. Traces to Nowhere, Zen, or The Skill to Catch a Killer, Cooper's Dreams.
I'll go with Zen.
Yeah, I'll stick with the same, I guess.
That is correct. That is the episode with the rock throwing.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right, the unorthodox, yeah.
And it does end with the first big red room sequence also.
Yeah, that's such a great one.
Pilot, aka season 1, episode 1. Pete Martell finds Laura Palmer's body. Ronette Pulaski is found beaten in a daze. FBI agent Dale Cooper arrives in Twin Peaks to investigate. Very simple. Any guesses?
I actually do know this one. It's Northwest Passage.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That was the one that I knew as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, it is. I had my two options you didn't hear is I think these would have been good if you guys didn't know, which I gave. One I just wrote was Twin Peaks. Maybe they just call it.
Mm-hmm.
And then one was Wrapped in Plastic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Classic line read.
Yep. I'll say the not correct answers are a combination of other episodes, both from this run and from future episodes, and
cool.
Some that I just like made up. Here's a long episode description. Episode 15, aka Season 2, Episode 8. Cooper's and Truman's search for Bob gets a boost from the one-armed man who's suffering from an identity crisis. James Hurley and Donna Hayward miss the chance to say goodbye to Maddie. Nora Jennings' mother, Vivian, brings her new husband for a visit. Lucy returns home with some company. Bobby Briggs pursues a fresh money-making venture. Pete Martell delivers a message to Ben Horne, and Leland Palmer's driving ability comes into question.
I actually know this one also because I was researching it this morning.
Okay.
It's called Drive with a Dead Girl.
Nice.
That
sounds like it would. Yeah, that sounds like a great title for it.
Yeah, I'll give you guys both 3 points. That is indeed Drive with a Dead Girl.
Oh yeah.
That's why we got to have one of you go first and the other. Right now, I think it'll be on Brian next. I don't know if we.
Oh, my bad.
Mixed up.
Did I just
No, it's okay.
usurp his turn?
Dude, please,
No.
I don't. Yeah, please.
It's fine. I mean, both of you
This is
get
one
golds.
of those where I don't feel very confident in this one with the initial answers.
Right now, y'all are tied, dead even. So Brian will start on this one. Episode 3, aka Season 1, Episode 4. The townsfolk of Twin Peaks gather for Laura Palmer's funeral. Cooper interprets his dream about the killer. Truman reveals to Cooper the secret of the Bookhouse Boys. Any guesses?
I mean, I could just make a joke thing, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Alex, any guesses?
Yeah, no.
Brian, is it The Man Behind Glass, Rest in Pain, or Secrets of the Bookhouse?
I feel like the Bookhouse thing wasn't too. What's the second one again?
Rest in Pain.
I'm gonna go with that one because I think that was the funeral episode. I think that was a pretty big overall theme in that one.
Alex?
Yeah, I'll agree because pain also is like a double entendre for glass as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is indeed Rest in Pain.
Sweet.
I don't know what glass has to do with that episode. I know there was that other episode title. I said Man Behind Glass, but that's...
Yeah. So I was just saying in reference to that,
Okay.
pain is more clever than the man behind the glass.
Yeah, that's true. That would be true. If that episode had anything to do with glass. Alex, you'll start this one. Episode 16, aka season 2, episode 9. Cooper asks Truman to give him 24 hours to prove who murdered Laura Palmer. Donna Hayward is stunned by Deputy Andy's knowledge of French. Mrs. Tremont does a disappearing act. Harold Smith leaves behind a tidbit of valuable information. Ben's Horn business fortunes hit an all-time low. A strange gathering is called to the Roadhouse, and it's high noon for Lucy, Andy, and Tremaine.
I'm going to need the multiple choice for sure.
Brian?
That was episode 9 of the 2. That's what we just watched, right?
That was the last one.
That was the last of the. That's arbitrary law. And the only reason I know that is because, again, my internet went out. And I just had to look at the fucking title and see it spinning. So arbitrary law, I know it.
And so your 3 multiple choices, Alex, are arbitrary law, demons, and wounds and scars.
Yeah, let's go with arbitrary law.
Yeah, okay. Yes, it is indeed arbitrary law. Brian, you'll start on this one. Episode 4, aka season 1, episode 5. Cooper and Truman track down the one-armed man and some strange new evidence on Laura Palmer's murder. Norma Jennings attends a parole board hearing for her husband. Audrey Horne decides to begin her own investigation. No idea.
No.
Alex?
Yeah, no.
Brian, is it Condemned Women, The One-Armed Man, or Realization Time?
Maybe The One-Armed Man.
Alex?
I'm going to double down on Realization Time.
It was The One-Armed Man.
Damn.
Oh, shit. Because I just feel like early on, that was enough of like probably an intro of the character. So
I think it was kind of the first
the heavy focus on him.
Yeah, because he like appears in the background in like the pilot, I think.
Yeah.
Alex, you'll start on this one.
The Jacoby's hallway too. That's where he's. Yeah.
Episode 7, aka season 1. Episode 8, aka the finale of season 1. Cooper and Truman's investigation builds to a terrifying conclusion. Dr. Jacoby heads for his rendezvous with quote-unquote Laura Palmer and its bizarre consequences. Catherine Martell and Shelley Johnson are hopelessly trapped. Hake Jennings' evil influences spread, engulfing Josie Packard. Any idea?
No.
Brian?
Yeah.
Alex, is it On the Wings of Love, Confrontations, or The Last Evening?
I'm going to go with Confrontations.
Brian?
I'm going to go with The Last Evening. It's the final battle. Seems like it should be something like that.
Alex, congratulations. You're wrong. It's The Last Evening.
Oh, hell yeah.
Brian, you're first on this one. Episode 1, aka season 1, episode 2. FBI agent Dale Cooper and Sheriff Harry Truman discover more about the troubled secret life of the murdered Laura Palmer. Big Ed Hurley reveals that he was drugged at the Roadhouse. A frightened James Hurley, vengeful Bobby Briggs, and Mike Nelson are released from jail. Catherine Martell lays bare her plot to take control of the Packard sawmill. Any guesses on that one?
A lot.
Alex?
Yeah, no, I'm going to need the choices.
Brian, Traces to Nowhere, Wounds and Scars, or Dark Rooms?
I think you're being clever with Dark Rooms. What's the first one again?
Traces to Nowhere.
And the second one, I'm sorry.
Wounds and Scars.
It's between those two for sure. Let's go Traces. Yeah, I'll guess that.
Alex?
I feel like Wounds and Scars, people are kind of
that's what I'm thinking.
collecting themselves in this episode.
I have a feeling that's what it is.
Well, congrats once again, Alex, because you were once again wrong, and Brian is.
Oh shit!
It is Traces to Nowhere.
Yeah, I felt regret on that one as soon as I said it, so glad I didn't.
Alex, episode 9, aka season 2, episode 2. Agent Cooper receives some unwanted help. And some unwelcome news. Audrey Horne gets into deeper trouble than she realizes. Donna Hayward arranges to meet a stranger, and Leland Palmer makes a horrifying discovery. I don't remember what that was. Any ideas?
No.
Brian?
Nope.
Is it, Alex, Laura's Secret Diary, Coma, or Double Play?
Was that the discovery, the diary?
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. I'll go Laura's, or what was it? What's Laura's Secret Diary?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll go with that one.
I think I'm gonna go with that one too. Yeah.
This episode was called Coma, I think, because of Leo Johnson. That's the only. That's the only reason I can think it was called Coma.
Yeah.
Because it's not even the episode where Coop's on the floor.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right, Alex, you're gonna have to guess. In order to win, you're gonna have to guess both of these before you get the options. So.
All right, I'll disassociate right here.
Brian, you will go first. Episode 5, aka season 1, episode 6. Cooper and Truman have tea with the log lady and discover a macabre crime scene in the woods. Audrey Horne takes a job at her father's department store. Hank Jennings returns from prison to the Double R Diner. James Hurley and Donna Hayward take Madeline Ferguson, weird to have it written out like that, into their confidence.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
guesses?
No.
Alex?
I know that when they make the discovery, there's like that record playing. And I think it's playing a Julie Crews song, which might not be a bad episode title, but which song was it? Was it The Nightingale? I'll go with The Nightingale.
Your options, Brian, are The Log Lady, The Third Man, and Cooper's Dreams.
Log lady?
Alex?
I'll go with The Third Man, just because I like that movie.
You guys are both wrong.
Oh,
This
yeah?
episode is called Cooper's Dreams for some reason, even though I don't think he has a dream in this episode, but
Maybe he dreamed. Did he dream before the last episode and it kind of ended that way? Maybe that's the.
No, this is like several episodes after that.
Yeah, weird.
Or did they talk about I remember they have like a
That might be
lunch with the log lady and they talk about a dream.
All right, last one. Episode 12, I think this goes to Brian first. Season 2, episode 5. Cooper reveals Audrey Horne's whereabouts to Truman. Leland Palmer attends his court hearing. Donna and Maggie Ferguson plot to steal Laura Palmer's secret diary. And Benjamin Horne receives a mysterious visitor and a business proposition.
I can't think of it. I think I might be able to pull it from a example though.
Alex?
Season 2, episode 5. Do you mind reading the synopsis again?
Sure. Cooper reveals Audrey Horne's whereabouts to Truman. Leland Palmer attends his court hearing. Donna Hayward and Maddie Ferguson plot to steal Laura Palmer's secret diary, and Ben Horne receives a mysterious visitor and business proposition.
All right, I'll go with a failed answer that I used before, which may or may not be a real episode title, but I'll go with Laura Palmer's secret diary.
The options you have, Brian, are Laura's Secret Diary, The Orchid's Curse, or Demons.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'll go Demons, maybe.
Alex, are you going to stick with Laura's Secret Diary?
Sticking with it.
Well, congratulations, you're both wrong. It's The Orchid's Curse.
Yeah,
damn
it. Thanks, Harold.
Yeah. No, the episode before that is called Laura's Secret Diary. Yeah, I will say, let me...
Yeah, Isn't Demons around there too?
Yes. So there was 13 of those, and there's 17. So the four ones I didn't have you guys guess. There's one called Demons. There's one called Laura's Secret Diary. There's one called Realization Time, and there's one other one called what's the other one called? I fucking forgot. Who cares? But there was one other that I didn't get y'all to guess that I'm sure I used as like a option once or twice. But yeah, congrats. Still a silver, Alex. It's always an honor to be nominated. And a minus to your the bottom of the ratio, which will increase your GPA, thankfully. So
nice.
But yeah, anybody got anything else? I think we should get a fucking ceasefire. I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't have anything else to plug or talk about.
Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, no.
Just hanging
Just
out.
life.
Just watch good movies.
Yeah, totally.
I
know it's divisive, but I saw the TV Glow. Go see it. It's great. I loved it. I want to see it again. So,
our next Twin Peaks Club will be in late July. That'll be concerning the next 5 episodes, a really great run of episodes. It'll end with the on-screen, kind of a spoiler, but we're going to end with the last episode we are going to cover. The reveal at the end of that episode is the on-screen first appearance of the already mentioned Wyndham Earl. And then the first episode on the following volume will be the Diane Keaton episode, which is maybe the worst episode of the show because it's the one that focuses most heavily on the James and the widow storyline. Not widower. I mean, hell, I would watch it. I want to thank Brian here for composing the outro. Find us on social media at CinemaCurse666, TikTok and Instagram. Share this episode with your lawyer. We will be back in mid to late July because I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to Gay Paris with my buddy Gary Busey. He bet me that he thinks he can jump off the Eiffel Tower and not die, and I'm pretty sure he's going to die, so we'll see. But we'll be back in like 4 weeks or so with a kind of late, once we get to there, Furiosa and Mad Max episode.
Hell yeah.
But thank you guys for joining, and it's been fun as always.
Fun as always.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.